This is me, Campari Safari, little blog, talking to renowned and distinguished artiste Seb Patane of Catania, Italy, now of London. And you've been living in London for over 25 or more. I'm not sure. How long have you been living there?
Yeah, about 28 actually.
Okay.
So I moved in moved in 92. Then I had a bit of a break back in Italy for about 3 months, and then I came back. So yeah. I care to mention this. It was one of the first, because people always remember like Nag 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 and stuff like that. But I was first before that. That it was a small monthly club in Shoreditch, run for about 2 years.
And you
and it was.
You had like some quite big guests. Well, or definitely
Gina Starr, T. Noble, Sue Webster, Paul Noble. So they would all take a slot. The second year was more music based, let's say. So it was more like people. I had Scanner, DJ Mira from Ladytron. I can't remember and it was, and the clientele, you said, the major one was Andrew Weatherall.
That was so like.
He was there every Sunday. It was crazy because basically, so at the time, I really care to mention this. It's one of my favorite stories. At the time, so I would print my own flyers. On the flyers, there was my home number, because mobiles, it sounds crazy because it's not that long ago, but they weren't used that much. I mean, I wasn't. So I had my flyer, and he came down one night, really loved it, picked up the flyer and just called me on the home line the day after, and was like, "Hi, it's Andrew. I really loved your club. I think it's great." I was like, "What?" It was fantastic. And then he just invited us to go to his record shop, and he would just come every month and stay by the DJ booth, loving it.
Amazing.
It was amazing. Such a nice guy. I mean, it's obviously a complete tragedy that he's gone.
I know.
But then people came, people would just come, Alexander Mcqueen. I was like dancing one night, and I remember sort of like telling him, like, "Do you want to DJ?" And he was like, "Yeah." And it never happened. But it was kind of crazy. It was easy to just achieve something those days. Like a buzz. There was a lot of press. And people coming, taking photographs of like Japanese magazines. It was kind of like, I mean, nowadays, obviously not now with the pandemic, but trying to do something to get attention is, for someone like me that's out of this sort of like young sort of scene now, it would be impossible. At the time, it was just like getting attention. I mean, it was the Electro Clash thing. We didn't play just Electro Clash, I care to mention, actually. He had this kind of vibe, but it was also quite serious. I mean, we played a lot of really, really serious electro that Andrew, for example, really, really loved. So that was fun.
And that time as well, I guess it like being a DJ at that, what's it called? Rain Dance. Just that area, way before it became really hip, was the sort of a hive and really important for British breakbeat, or the beginnings of jungle. But I have really fond memories of the short time that I lived in London. What do you think?
Well, we were coming out of that in a way. Like, that's what the early 2000s were so exciting, because up to the end of the 90s, it was drum and bass and Blue Note, all that kind of stuff, which was great. But it ended up being a little bit of a niche. Not everybody knew how to dance to drum and bass. When you went to a club, it wasn't easy. I mean, I did my best. So the whole early 2000 electro and stuff liberated a lot of people, and the freaks, and you know, the gay people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a sea change, wasn't it? It was like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like DIY, start from scratch, like quite punky. You know, like let's dance in a bit to a bit of a four to the floor sort of beat, and it was easier and it was really freeing and I felt really anarchic. You know, it sounds crazy. It's 2000, it's not 1976, but it was really exciting time for London.
Definitely. Like, and also if you think about like producers like Richard X, like going from you know, being an underground producer to then producing really huge artists, but still making like brilliant pop records, like, and still keeping
the mismatch and stuff, you know. Oh God, I still got the vinyl of his stuff, like, you know, Freak Like Me and the original one, not the Sugar Babes, you know. That was him, wasn't it? Yeah,
that was him. And then
as well, like the late 90s in London were apart from, you know, the drum and bass and everything, which was very exciting music, obviously. But there was a lot of like a sense of like wanted to escape to different countries. There was a lot of wanted to be soulful and warm and sort of like, you know, influence that went to like far out, which it's all great, but I know I was really into my electronic stuff, and I just thought it was like, I want to do something cold and minimal and just really dark and sort of like completely and very European. I mean, you know, I just kind of like, I sound like a fascist, but it was just a need to add a different kind of like flavor to a landscape which was very monotone. I'm talking about the very end of the 90s, right? And so when we were playing just kind of like, you know, electronic, disco-y, it did feel like, okay, you know, a breakthrough. Although it wasn't particularly groundbreaking music. I mean, some of it was, but really afternoon tea birthday party. So maybe I've told you this. This is like literally, because I do think about like when did it happen? You know, because I didn't have friends or older brothers or sisters listen to like that kind of music. I didn't have any input in that sense. So I do ask myself, like, where did my interest, you know, growing up in a village in Sicily, you just don't have that sort of like input where you have to find it. But he kind of found me. So this is I love this story. I must have been about 12 and I was on vacation in this really tiny village in the mountains in Sicily, where we used to go every summer. And one of my friends did a birthday party. Afternoon, you know, whatever. I went there. There was a one of those, you know, small record players where you would stick 7 inches inside, and just a pile of 7 inches, and someone just putting it in as a background. And then at some point, this incredible sounds start coming out from this thing, really spiky, really angular, and completely synthetic, and jaggedy, and just, oh my God, they blew my mind. And I was like, what is this? And I went straight there and I asked the guy that was putting stuff into the record player. I was like, what is it? And he gave me the cover. And it was, you'll know when I say, it was the black silhouette of a rugby player on a white background. And it was Situation by Yazoo. And I just thought, this is amazing. These sounds are incredible. And it was so strong and dancey. And also I couldn't work out like why this is what this rugby player guy means in terms of music. I think that started my interest in clashing things, in things clashing together, not making much sense. And I think from there on, I can't really remember, I've done all sorts of things. I've used titles of the songs for artwork. I've actually printed titles of songs onto drawings. I have sampled them. I have made videos that sort of like related to their videos.
Yeah.
I think basically when I was growing up as a dark waver,
Yeah. Yeah.
post-punk,
Yeah.
pseudo goth, but not quite a goth. I realize now.
More
All of my,
open-minded goth.
that's right.
Yeah.
All of my friends were like really, you know, heterosexual and masculine and kind of like, in a way, a little bit conventional. You know, listening to bands that were amazing and but you know, guitar based, Bauhaus, Joy Division, people that I think are incredible and I absolutely adore. But I needed something that was a bit more mine, and I don't know how DAF came across. I think a friend gave me a record or something, and I just thought, again, another moment where you think like, yes, this is amazing. This is the two guys looking quite sexually ambiguous and charged rather with sexuality. All the black leather, and they were doing post-punk, but with electronics completely and very minimal, but managing to like do a very, very stark sound. It was incredibly powerful for me. That was, it was like, okay, these are my Sex Pistols, you know. They felt more mine, and so that started my interest in them, but also carried on my interest in electronic music, which has been a constant throughout, even when I was a dark waver. And so they to me represent a sense of maybe nostalgic avant-garde that I kind of want to refer to when I work on my stuff, because I like, in my artwork, I like to refer to forms of like the avant-garde in music or art that equal social kind of revolution, even if it's tiny, you know, personal. For me, I mean, a lot of stuff is about protest and moving forward socially, politically. So they, for me, stand for a lot of stuff.
I love,
and then
I love that. Well, when I got my basic grasp of German and being able to understand Gabi a little bit and talking about the new like Kebab Traum, and then Gabi being so provocative and like that, you know, it's like Deutschland, alles ist vorbei, like, you know, that kind of provocative, like the conservative idea is over, you know, this is the new. But also like there's a kind of grey area where, you know, they kind of they're sort of using fascist imagery a little bit, but obviously they're saying we are the new young generation, and we are
well, they were very political. I mean, obviously he was, but his background was Turkish. He bless him, he now obviously passed away.
I think I don't know if his dad was Spanish Turkish. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, because his surname. Yeah, I mean, so he represented a kind of like, you know, a section of Germany which was, you know, the immigration, and he was saying things like, you know, we're the new.
Yeah, and there's this word like Gastarbeiter, which was applied to anyone that was coming in to Germany and Austria as well, and Switzerland, to sort of like to be the industrial force to make the country get moving again. And my friend Mattis, who I spent some time with, he said like, yeah, that what, you know, in Germany's like such a great place because we've got social problems, but like from the 70s and 80s, people did get along, and there wasn't that kind of. There are obviously like sinker states, but German culture and German music is just fucking incredible. I don't know where I'm
and
going
this
with
is
this,
rich.
but
My God,
yeah,
like me, like many, but yeah, no, it's got like its own thing. It's very, very specific, and
yeah.
it's fascinating, of course.
And I didn't really know anything about it until sort of 2003, 2004. And I used to read, you know, a lot. I used to read a lot of music magazines, NME and Melody Maker and Mix Mag and DJ Mag. But that in British press, you know, that it wasn't talked about enough, or it was, you know, it was just an Anglo focus all the time. And it's only with
Yeah.
the internet that
Yes.
I really opened up. And
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, when I moved to England in '92, it was a different world.
yeah,
I guess it took ages for the city, never mind the country, to open up to
yeah,
the rest of the world. Really, I
yeah,
mean, I'm not saying it was a bad thing, but it was definitely took forever. You
yeah,
know, I would say only mid 2000s, maybe
yeah,
early 2000s,
yeah. Because this
something like that.
idea of like Britpop or the mid 90s being a romantic great era, it's also it has shades of you know, with Oasis and the Blur war, just, you know, mono culture, white boys
Oh
with
yeah,
fucking guitars.
very, and also very alienating for people that weren't British, that weren't
Yeah,
heterosexual. I would say it was. It's not that I, well, I disliked it. Did I dislike it? I mean, there were moments where, yeah, I mean, I hated Oasis. You
yeah,
know, they stood for me for everything that I was not about. So
yeah,
I mean, I remember I always say this in those years. Pulp saved my
yeah,
life because they were
yeah.
the only ones that were massive. But speaking for the Misfits, I
Speaking,
mean, Blur were arty, yeah, they were more interesting, but they were
yeah,
blokes. You know, they were
yeah.
blokes. You know, and
And
Pulp.
and look what happened with Alex as well, turning into a fucking Tory cheese making
Cheese make.
David,
Yes. Oh
um,
yeah.
you know, hanging out with
Um,
Tories. So they showed, well, he showed his true colours in the end.
right.
But yeah, talking about pulp, my friend Matt Humphrey also said the same thing. Is there was only kind of one when you're really young. There's only one choice, and that was pulp. That was how you displayed your identity, from the way you dressed to the way that your kind of attitude to life. And I don't, for him, definitely, because he was from a working class lower background, and it was like Jarvis represented someone, for him, an aspirational figure, but also like making do and making use of your um like maybe bad situation and just trying to live a bit like a mod, trying to live glamorously, or live through a difficult period, but to do it with style and to
Yeah.
ex- be proud of your eccentricity and your outsider
Yeah.
nation.
I mean, like something like Common People kind
Mm,
of speaks about that, doesn't it?
yeah,
I mean, so if whoever's listening to this might think like, well, you didn't have to listen to pulp. You know, you could just listen to your own alternative stuff, which of course I did, alternative within brackets. But it was so big, the whole Britpop thing.
yeah,
You could not escape it. You just could
yeah,
not, even if you were like this kind of like hardcore person into like isolationism or post shoegaze, whatever. I mean,
yeah,
it was in your face. So when I say I had to listen to pulp, I mean, I pulp saved my life. It was because it was everywhere.
yeah,
So you sort of had to relate somehow. And but I mean, I do love pulp. I think
yeah,
they're fabulous.
yeah,
I think he's incredible what he does with
yeah,
sound,
yeah,
and obviously with the rapping. But it's listening to some of his albums, I just can't quite get my hand around it. The layers that he puts into the samples is just absolutely mind blowing.
yeah,
So he's somebody who's really, really I mean, I saw him live as well. It's just incredible performer. So of all round amazing artist, I think he is. I think someone else that really also affected me in terms of who inspired me is Andy Stott.
Yeah,
I think he's fantastic. What he does is also amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I something that really interested me is in the. I mean, I think I discovered it a bit late, but it's footwork as a genre.
Yeah.
And I think what those DJs and those people are doing is super interesting. You know, with the sampling and going to a point of the absurd with the repetition and the high pitching of the voices. They got really into like quite a theatrical realm of like absurdity, but getting away with it. I find that insanely, but I think it's incredibly experimental genre and very, very underrated.
Industrial stuff as well, but he plays a lot of techno. And he did project recently with Mark Stewart from the Pop Group, which is a huge post-punk kind of. They weren't really that well known, but they were from Bristol. Yeah, I'm gonna send you a link to his mixes.
I remember Mark Stewart on his own, right? He did some records on his own, didn't he? In the late 80s. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's what. Yeah, so Tex Peak, in one of his mixes, he was playing a lot of stuff by Trevor Jackson, so his playgroup stuff. I was going to say, like, Trevor Jackson as a DJ, a bit like Weatherall.
Amazing.
A bit like Weatherall.
Yeah, totally.
Never chased stardom. Supported.
Oh, Trevor is amazing. I kind of know him a little bit. I wouldn't say he's a friend, but he's fantastic character. I mean, he's very, very rebellious and uncompromising and totally real and very, very, very much in love with music. And he's an amazing. Yeah,
so
I respect him a lot.
Metal Machine music compilations that he did a few years ago.
Yeah,
probably maybe 10 years ago. I'm not sure, but those were just brilliant, like essential for me, just to get those tracks and to have the way they were sequenced, the way they were put together, was just perfect and was just
no, he's a genius.
That kind of spikier metallic.
I am a massive control freak, so I ended up wanting to do my own thing. I do work closely with my friend Giancarlo Trimarchi, who is a musician himself. He has a couple of projects, Luzu and the Dish, and he usually produces my tracks in the end. So when I go and see him in Italy, we spend like a week or whatever in his studio, and we produce the tracks. And he puts the final sheen, pumping. But I write and I record everything myself, and I make it up as I go along. I mean, getting my head around Ableton and then something like that I have to make stuff.
I kind of, the same for me as well. It's like I have the idea of the track, and then I'm just limited by my knowledge. But my friend Peter with Haram tapes, he's a melody master. He learnt to play the piano, and
it is a bit lo-fi in a way. I mean, I appreciate that. It is very much. I mean, it's a very DIY. It's almost punky. Sort of, what I don't pretend. I don't want to say that I make electronic music with the idea of discovering new sounds or new algorithms in terms of, that's not my. I'm not like an artist like people like Actress or Flying Lotus. Like people that really sort of go into like the investigation of sound. Not at all.
No.
But I mean, when you listen to those people, then you think, "Wow, what am I doing?"
But just to big you up a bit, I love the character that you made. To me, it's like you've got two characters. You've got the huge phantom with the big back-combed hair, the kind of it's a bit basic, my interpretation, but it's kind of like the thin Robert Smith, kind of an alternative version of Robert Smith, of like a phantom or a copy of him, but like his electronic version. And then the mask, then the mask where you have the kind of hanging down. What's the Can you talk a little?
Well, I mean, it's again, it's my interest when I do anything about in contrast and clashes and juxtaposition of things that might not make sense.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that you see that image and you think like, oh well, this guy must be doing like, you know, post-punk, dark wave, goth kind of stuff. And my music, it is dark, and some of it is kind of influenced by minimal wave or whatever. I'm not really. I mean, I think about other stuff when I do it. So when you hear one of my tracks and it's a bit more like a bit different, I like to imagine the reaction of somebody thinking like, oh, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, like,
you know, that's a goth cure like image character, I suppose. And also obviously it's a connection to my background as a teenager, you know.
Definitely.
And then the other one, the mask one, to be honest, was kind of trying to do something else, but also I needed something when I did one gig in Christmas 2019 in Sicily, and I needed something that I could see through, but I couldn't. But I didn't want people to see my face. I'm kind of don't want that to happen in folk school so much. It's not particularly a rule. It's just that I don't want to appear. Maybe I will in the future. I don't know. I just, it's just making it a bit more interesting.
Fog. So, like a character appearing from a fog as well. Like, I don't know. Is there? Yeah.
Well, we did that. Sorry, what do you mean? You mean in terms of?
In like the word itself, fog, to be obscure or in to be like obscure. You know, oscura, like not seen, or being unable to see as well. That link to it.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I mean, I sort of like, again, it's not that I want to make it, you know, obviously I'm here talking to you. This is my face. It's not like a strict rule like people like, I don't know, the Knife did at the very beginning. They interviewed with the boys. That was amazing. I don't have. It's just a make believe. It's a masquerade. It's just performance, you know. So the other mask like that, I just needed it to do the live gig, and I just came up with that. I don't particularly love it, to be honest, but I in the future we'll see. But I mean, I just wanted to create a more of a romantic figure with the first incarnation of the big backcombed hair, but then again offering completely different kind of sound. I thought it was, I don't know, it was funny.
Just some background how we know each other is like Severino put
all my own discoveries.
You found your own way.
Who knows what would have happened if my sister was like, oh, you should listen to this record. As a reaction, maybe I would have been like, no, and then listen to something else. So I'm quite. It was actually incredibly exciting to find things out in the 80s about music and stuff, and really you have to make a real effort to get a record or to, like, you know, discover a new band. And so that was really very pleasurable, very sort of like nice, very rewarding. So I personally, I was happy to do all the work. You know what I mean?
I guess when you're a music freak, or like just an obsession, someone that is just music is your thing, watching it, consuming it, playing it, well, not playing it or wanting to play it, but not having the ability, that any new discovery is kind of like, you get this kind of rush of I don't know, a feeling alive. I don't know, in this period of where we're stuck in, it's just, that is that has been the main thing that's kept me sort of afloat, is going back to music that I used to love, but also making new discoveries and just thinking, well, in a year or 6 months, there will be the opportunity to experience live music again, and there will be a time to put on clubs and live events, and just
absolutely. That rare moment when you find someone new and you get excited, it's priceless. And to have it at this stage, I mean, to mention him again, to mention Jpeg Mafia, when I discovered him, I was so excited because I just went to listen to all of his stuff, and it's it keeps you going. It just keeps you going, especially during a time like this. It just keeps you excited, and you feel like a bit of a teenager again. You want to kind of listen to everything and buy the t-shirt.
I think
I didn't buy the t-shirt. That's quite. But I did go and see him, and
important to buy the merch, because without the merch, how are musicians going to make a living? But that kind of, on New Year's Eve, there was the Love from Outer Space, the night of Weatherall's night with Sean Johnston, and just Sean played just apps, like loads of classics from that club, and just I met so many people. I've tuned in a couple of times on Facebook, but not interacted. But on the Twitch, and just people saying where they were from, memories they'd had of the club and of Andrew. And I met 2 or 3 people I never knew from my hometown that were Andrew Weatherall fans. And I'm just like, I just cannot wait to like put on a night again, because it was like that kind of club that has a community like that of fellow music fans, Weatherallites, and he's kind of like a unifying figure. But
absolutely,
Sean Johnston, like he's approachable. He's if you ask, he's not one of these DJs that is not going to like hide a track I just mean
I love those things. I mean, I love those. I mean, maybe I'm very nostalgic, but I'm not scared of that word.
No,
some people are not. But I love going on to like all those pages on Facebook, whatever, that related to a particular club, and see people posting pictures. Great. I check few, like even from like Italy in the 80s, the goth clubs, and or like more recent ones. I love it. It's just and as you say, it's a community, and people, and really really brings people together. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's really true, especially now. I love all those things. Only comments like, oh yeah, I was there the same night, and this is the vibe that I felt, and this is and you think like, yeah, me too. I remember. It's great. It's human. It's makes you feels part of something.
Exactly. It is the idea of the nightclub, a real nightclub where it's music focused and not about copping off. When you, like, Weatherall talks a lot about it, like ascending into a kind of tribal state. I miss nightclubs so much, like everyone. But
I do now. I mean, I do now. I mean, but before the pandemic, I was kind of honest at a level when I was a bit ambivalent about it. But now I'm like desperate to go and be in a room with people dancing. Absolutely.
So my last question is a bit provocative. So you're not a goth? Do you?
That's right.
You're a dark. You would say you're a dark waver, post-punk child of the. You're someone with an open mind. You're not like that narrow 80s idea of, I'm gonna hang around in a graveyard. I'm only into like. I'm only into.
It's actually a bit different. It's actually a bit different. It's not so much a bit being open-minded. It's about realizing that I grew up in a situation, an environment, which with time I realized wasn't the idea of UK goth. Basically, I know some people might think like, I mean, God, you got time on your hands, you know, think about this stuff. But I've been writing about it, and I've been reading about it because it really interests me, all that kind of way of identity shaping, you know, that you go through. And there was a particular book that I really enjoyed reading. It was a book about goth or dark wave, or dark. Just simply, we called it dark.
It's dark, yeah.
In the 80s in Milan, called Creature Simili. They just done an English version, actually, very academic.
Yeah.
Actually, the English version is like, I'm reading it now. I mean, I did a little. I have a little part in it, but tiny. But anyway, that book was really, really interesting to remember the difference. And basically, I mean, first of all, I don't want to say that one was better than the other. It's not the case. But like, Italian dark, or if you want to call it goth, came from a point of view which was very kind of political, and also very, very much related to the era. So in Italy, we still have this thing called social centers, which are places that are run independently by punks, so originally in the 70s, and then where, you know, you've had concerts and club nights and performances and art. It's a very Italian thing. And so the post-punk wave came from that. So it was very much about, like, you know, getting involved with a social sort of situation. And then it was also quite a street thing. It was about being out in the street and hanging out. Whereas in England, post-punk and goth was pretty much club-based. I mean, in Italy, in the early 80s, we didn't have the Batcave, which I think it's a massive, massive difference. So the Batcave, I think, in England set up an atmosphere, a vibe, and an idea about goth or post-punk, which was very much about the nightlife and very much about ideas related to partying. You know, it was more sexual. It was more like and ironic also. Whereas we didn't have that, so we skipped that early stage. So it was more like goth was more like literally a punk going darker in terms of the attire, but also spreading out into art and performance and reading and you know and theater and that kind of stuff. So it was a darker version of punk being more arty. And so all the stuff that came in the late 80s or mid 80s, like, you know, the crucifixes, the cemetery, the vampires, didn't really feature so much until much later. Whereas in England, it was kind of like the Batcave had already a little bit of that, and they came up with that term. So I don't think dark in Italy was gothic.
No,
it wasn't so much about that aspect. So it wasn't so much about the cemeteries and the vampires and all that kind of stuff. Not really. It was much more pared down. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't in the end, and I'm not saying in the end we all had rosaries, you know, hanging from our necks and talking about cemeteries and stuff like that. But of course, you kind of end up doing that. But for me, it was never a big part, and I really don't relate to goth being gothic. So dark in Italy, to me, wasn't very gothic. It was more punky. It was more. It was and arty, and it was more like a winter look. It wasn't all this kind of ripped t-shirt. And the fetish thing didn't kick in until much later. Whereas in England, it was kind of early. You know, they're all stripped down and all sort of naked. This wish of like showing flesh. Italy, and maybe comes from the Catholic conservative ideas about Italy, that we were much more wrapped up. Again, I'm not saying one was better than the other. One was more interesting.
There's no discussion of that.
So I kind of like, when I see all these things about goth and contemporary, and I just think, no, that wasn't me actually at all. I wasn't interested in vampires. I
Yeah.
was interested in being outside, head to toe in black, showing people at the time that there was people that thought differently from the thing in the 80s, which was about like colors and flamboyancy and success and materialism. You would just kind of like sit down in a square on a bench, all dressed in black, and it was a political offering. You know,
Yeah.
I know it sounds really crazy, but it was. For you to go to school dressed head to toe in black, not being fashionable, because of course there were the fashion people that would wear black. Black has always been fashion.
Yeah.
But you know, with your hair in a particular way and define those sort of things, it was a gesture of some weight.
Yeah.
You know, that interested me. It
Yeah.
wasn't about like Baudelaire and kind of like, I mean, it was in some way, but it was a revolution in a way of you know. So yeah, I mean, thinking and reading, I just decided, yeah, I was never a goth. I was a dark wave.
Dark wave, yeah.
I was dark.
It was really
the
moving.
general understanding and awareness about Depeche Mode, especially in this country, really makes me angry. Actually,
yeah. Me too.
Speaking about things that are very important, but because they are an amazing band, and people don't understand. They think I sometimes speak to friends and maybe not so much into music. They're like, oh my God, did I have another hit after Just Can't Get Enough? Are they still going? I'm like, are you crazy? These people are part of the history. They made something which was very revolutionary because it was in a pop context.
Yeah.
They influenced people in Detroit. They influenced
that was vital. Like, without them, maybe there might not have. Well, they're definitely like a building block in techno in the Detroit. In the story of techno, there's reference.
Oh, sorry, I need to go grab my cup. It's just like it's just to destroy my curtains.
Yeah.
No, the way they built their sounds and tracks, it was. I read a book about it, which was really good. I can't remember the writer now, but it was very fascinating. They would just destroy themselves getting the right. Well, not they. It was more like Daniel Miller and Alan Wilder. I think Dave Gahan and Martin Gore would just be in the pub getting pissed.
Yeah.
But like those two, the other two would just like go for days on a sound, you know, and also sort of like on a beat. Their beats were so precise. And the fact that they introduced noises and samples, of course, industrial, you know, the music was doing that, and of course there were experimental people in Germany and stuff like that, but artists, but they introduced it in a pop context. They were in top of the pops with industrial sounds. That was amazing.
Brought it to the world, like that idea of Einstürz and Neubart, and like the metallic making destruction, so the metallic sounds, like they were just they are the German Gesamtkunstwerk. They are the whole artwork. They use everything, and
the fact that they would have amazing tunes, amazing songs, but also a combination of like the metallic, the industrial, the super electronic with Chichi. You don't have to relax. With Martin Gore's quite open and honest, and sometimes slightly cheesy lyrics. It's a winning combination, you know. So they're unique in that sense, and they kept trying and pushing and really pushing the envelope, and also artistically, visually, when they started working with Anton Corbijn, you know, it's I think they're a fantastic band, a very underrated.
Totally. They are not appreciated, like the Marquis Smith.
Especially in the UK. I mean, they are in the rest of the world, but in the UK, they're seen as because they did the whole Teen magazine, and people never forgiven them for that. But that was fascinating about Depeche Mode. They were on the covers of my shits, but they were talking about sex and religion and making industrial noises. You know, I think they're a wonderful band.
Have you seen the Jeremy Deller film, The Pictures Came from the Walls? And what's what was a bit annoying to me is like, because I think that's an amazing film, and apparently Depeche Mode, they don't like it. They think that it's exploitative, but I don't think it is
Exploitative,
at all.
yeah.
I don't think it is at all. I think it's a celebration of the super fan, the super fan, this and
It's
like
yeah.
the story about the Dave Garn Day in Moscow, and like all of the fans getting together on Dave's birthday.
Yes, yeah. Oh, it's crazy. It
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
yeah,
It's important. It's political. You know what they did in the Eastern Europe,
yeah,
and Russia. You know, like it's basically. Well, I mean, I like Jeremy Della a lot as an
yeah,
artist, but sometimes I have my
yeah.
doubts on his intentions.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
remember he did this talk when I was at St. Martin's, a college at St. Martin's, and he did a talk, and he was talking a lot about this project he had with Manic Street Preachers.
yeah,
He was doing a lot of projects with fans of Manic Street Preachers, and I found it a bit dodgy. And at some point, I did
yeah,
ask to him like very simple question. I said like, "Do you actually like the Manic Street Preachers?"
yeah,
And he said like, "That's a very good question." He said like, "Well, yeah, I do, but I mean, it was kind of like, why are you doing this? You know,
yeah,
what's your angle? I'm sure he likes Depeche Mode, but I mean, is he exploitative? He's clever.
yeah.
He's clever
He's
at finding
definitely got
things that strike a chord.
the magpie kind of like, okay, I'm going to choose this monumental thing in culture, and then I'm going to examine it right to the nth degree. But I think he's a really great artist. Along with you, of course. The three,
Of
and
course.
the other one is what's his name? The guy that did Fiorucci Made Me Hardcore.
Mark
Um,
Leckey.
Mark Leckey. So
Yeah,
that
Leckey, yeah.
I'm not a huge. I don't know much about him, but that film, Fiorucci Made Me Hardcore, is when my mate Sam told me to watch it. It was like really, yeah, just
It's
mind blowing.
it's wonderful. It's a
Yeah,
really wonderful, iconic piece of work. Yeah, Mark
yeah,
is amazing. I also know Mark a little bit. She's just trying to get into the frame. He's a very interesting artist. I mean, I like Mark a bit more than I like Jeremy Della. Literally, there was a poll that.
Frankie, join in.
Oh, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into like trying to describe Mark's work. It's very complex and very multi-layered. But he's a
Yeah,
very interesting artist. Yeah.
I watched one of his recent things, and there was an interview where he was kind of interested in like Minecraft and building gigantic worlds or gigantic figures, and yeah, going into digital work.
He goes into a lot of places. Sometimes his mind can be a little bit difficult to read.
Yeah,
It's not as straightforward, but yeah, no, he's great, a great one.
okay, right, we've had a good we've been talking for ages. So by the time I've processed this video and put some I'm going to put some Fog School in and then some links on the page. But yes, let's keep in touch, and I hope, fingers crossed.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah.
Fingers crossed for like summer that things will kind of go back to normal-ish, and we can get a drink, get a coffee. It's been meaning to.
Oh God, yeah. If you're in London, give us a shout.
I will be, definitely. I've got a friend who's in Stratford, Matt. Actually, the guy I was talking about, Matt Humphrey, because we started Campari Safari together. He's a gardener now, but I want to get back together with him and do a few tiny gigs or even club nights. But yeah, this period has
Here's
been.
hoping. I think fingers
This period's
crossed.
been shit, but it's kind of it for a lot of people. I guess it's thrown into perspective the important things in life, which are your friends and coming together with your friends to celebrate your mutual aficiones, your
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
okay, man. Thanks a lot for
Thank
talking
you,
to
Rob.
me.
Lovely chatting to you and seeing you.
Yeah, let's do it again soon.
All right, darling.
Take care. Love you lots. Bye.
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 Ciao, ciao.